All right, everybody. All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode on All in a Day's Work. Officially signing on. It's your boy Trip, and I'm here on another Mental Health Monday. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different because my editor actually brought me an article that was published by AmericanGrit.com, and this one kind of touched home for me. It touched home and it hit me in a real sensitive spot. And you guys are going to be able to see why. With today's episode, he sent me this article. Again, it was from AmericanGrit.com. And this article talks about how it's too late for me. That's the headline. It says, "It's too late for me, how the VA failed Staff Sergeant Wesley Black." Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering, well, what do you mean, how did the VA fail you? Or, of course the VA failed you. It failed me too. It's failed numerous people. We know that to be true. I'm not going to sit here and advocate for the VA and talk about how the VA is the greatest thing on earth. We know that there's flaws. But we also know that it is a government system, and with all government systems, there are issues. And we have to identify and call these issues out so that way it can be fixed. Okay, so remember, the only way we're going to be able to fix these issues is if we speak up and talk about it. So a little bit, I'm going to read you guys just a little bit of the article, and I'm sure a lot of you, if you have ever served overseas or anything, this is going to touch home to you, especially if you served within the last 20 years between Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom specifically. Okay. But I'm just going to jump right into this article. You're welcome to check out the article. Again, it's on AmericanGrit.com. You'll be able to see it if you just search, Staff Sergeant Wesley Black is the first article that comes up. So this one talks about, it starts off, there have been many lingering wounds from the War on Terror. Toxic exposure, traumatic brain injury, and post-traumatic stress. They've claimed they've claimed thousands of lives back home. Although a big push for post-traumatic stress treatment has been seen recently, and many toxic exposure illnesses are still left untreated. Some of those toxic exposures, what are those? Some of you know exactly what those are. The burn pits, the shitters. You have to stir the poop and put the diesel in, 2 parts diesel, 1 part mogas, I believe it is, if I remember correctly. You got to burn the shitters. Just the regular burn pits. The nasty and toxic environment that we were a part of. A lot of these wounds and things that we had to endure have gone left untreated or documented as not service connected, which doesn't really make sense to me, because you figure you spent a year, in cases more, overseas in this foreign country where you're not used to by any means, and you're forced to do whatever you're told to do. And by doing those things, sometimes you're exposed to certain environments that can have a long-lasting effect on you years later down the road. And this is kind of where this story goes into play. Okay. So these illnesses are most commonly a result of the burn pits and other contaminant troops were forced to work in and sleep near. This is something that Staff Sergeant Wesley Black knows too well. So he goes into his story. I've experienced the burn pits myself. As a matter of fact, my motor pool, back when I was in Afghanistan, 2010, 2011, was directly across the street from the entire Camp Leatherneck, the entire camp, which was huge, plus Bastion Airfield, which was the British side of the airfield. The entire area's burn pit was directly across the street from our motor pool. So an engineer, knowing that you pretty much spend a lot of your time in the motor pool if you're not on mission. And for those of us that were outside constantly dealing with the motor pool, all of our preparations and things like that to prepare for our mission was spent down in the motor pool. Matter of fact, our talk was in the motor pool. It was fenced in, and it was all directly across the street. So all of our operations, all of our everything was done except for sleeping, done right there at the motor pool. So kind of put that in perspective for you. All daily operations and everything is done right here in the motor pool, and then we sleep elsewhere. But the burn pit was directly across the street, and they would burn everything, all of the trash from the entire camp, the DFAC, all the stuff, everything. If it could be burned, it was burned, and it didn't matter. And I remember a lot of us, we were experiencing nosebleeds and stuff like that just from the toxic fumes and chemicals and stuff like that. But we were told, hey, just go to sick call, or, hey, doc, treat them. And our medic would, give us whatever medicine that he had, or give us some water, tell us to sit out for a little bit, whatever the case was. But nonetheless, we all experienced these toxic chemicals from the burn pits. And, you ask yourself, not only am I breathing in this toxic air, just the air itself, it's hot, it's humid, it's dirty out here in Afghanistan. But now we're burning all of the trash, we're burning shit, we're burning all of these things. And you wonder, what kind of effect is that going to have on me later down the line? And for so many of us, we've experienced that we get deemed that it's something that we all have to endure and pretty much blow it off and deal with it. And this is kind of where this story goes into. So it talks in here, Staff Sergeant Wesley Black recalls, he's not bullshitting you when I say the conversation went like this. Hi, Wesley. I just wanted to call and see how you were doing and if you were alone this weekend. Wesley replied by saying no. His wife is here. The VA representative on the phone, he called him and he said, well, great, that's good, because I want to let you know that you have stage 4 colon cancer. And we'll be in touch with you on Monday, okay? Have a great weekend. Okay, first of all, VA, let's get real here for a second. Is that really how we want to deliver this kind of information to somebody? Now, I understand the idea of ensuring that Staff Sergeant Black was not alone, because who knows where his mind could have went if he had been alone and just received that news. But what I really want to touch on is the fact that the VA, who is supposed to be caring for our servicemen and women after they have exited service, they give this man a phone call, okay? A phone call, and they just nonchalantly just, hey, by the way, you have stage 4 colon cancer. That's a pretty significant deal. But meanwhile, or not meanwhile, but good thing he had his wife with him, so they just went ahead and broke the news to him, and then that's how the call went. By the way, we'll touch back with you on Monday. Doesn't seem like there's much sympathy or even empathy there. And I get it, they're medical professionals, and I'm sure they have to deal with this day in and day out. But there has to be some kind of way to deliver this kind of news to somebody than a simple phone call. And by the way, we'll get back to you on Monday. Have a good weekend. And this is where I talk about the mental health kind of play. So this is somebody who has actively served his country, went overseas, and you'll be able to get all those details if you further read the article. But got this troubling news stage 4 colon cancer. Now, anybody who's had anything to do with cancer knows that stage 4 is not. It's just a simple thing. That's a pretty significant deal. And so he gets this phone call, and now he's told, "Have a great weekend. We'll get back to you on Monday." So now let's just assume that he got the call on a Friday, right before close of business. And now he's sitting there with his wife, and who knows what his schedule's like, whether he's got to work 46, 70 hours a week, or if he just has weekends off. Who knows? There's no telling. But now he's forced to deal with the idea that, wow, I have stage 4 lung cancer. And I'm sure he had a lot of questions. But the nurse or whoever called him wasn't able to give him the information. It was simply just, "We'll get back to you on Monday. Have a great weekend." Okay. The story later on the line explains that he served 2 combat tours, 2 combat deployments. He felt like he was going to live the rest of his life, chasing his kid around, chasing his wife around. But then he learned that the cancer had reached stage 4. It had already spread to his liver and his lungs. So he's now diagnosed with this prognosis that he's got 3 to 5 years to live if he's lucky. And we all know how cancer is. Depending on the treatment, it can either take or it doesn't. And 3 to 5 years could be 3 to 5 days. Much less it could be 3 to 5 hours. But we want to back up to this mental health. So he had to endure this entire weekend with his wife knowing that he had stage 4 colon cancer. And has never been pre-diagnosed or anything like that before this. So the idea that this just came out of nowhere was kind of suspicious. And he's been out of the military for years. He's told the VA, his providers, his primary care and other providers, that he was in an astronomical amount of pain. And according to the article, they attributed the pain to his diet, or IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, and that he was given rectal itch cream to kind of help with the situation. But they never once tested for colon cancer until it was too late. And I'm assuming they only tested for it because he probably had some kind of really significant reaction or episode where he had no other choice but to. So for years before, there were symptoms and things, but they just easily diagnosed it as something else, put some butt cream on, and you'll be good to go. It's an issue there. The article later reads, an oncologist outside of the VA later linked the cancer back to burn pit exposure while he was deployed. So this is years later, after he's been out of the service and he's had rectal issues or itching or something to that nature. And an oncologist later on realized that the cancer has came and been attributed to being exposed to the burn pits while he was deployed. Now, I put this out there as common knowledge or just maybe it's a PSA. I'm not sure if maybe this has a bunch to do with Mental Health Monday, but at the end of the day, I want to give you as the viewers good information and true information. And this is something that it saddens me to believe that here's an individual who served 2 combat tours overseas, fighting for his country, regardless of what you may think or agree with how our military acts or does not act. This man volunteered to serve his country, went 2 times, 2 combat deployments, had to endure the pain and suffering of losing one another or not, and going through the heat, the dirtiness, the smell, just the environment is pure hell. And then to have to deal with the burn pits on top of it, just to find out later on that you now have stage 4 colon cancer. And it's been attributed to being exposed to the burn pits. That's a lot to take in. Not only is that a lot to take in, but that's a lot to deal with and try to fight and surpass this issue, this stage 4 colon cancer, because you have pretty much 2 options. You either try to fight it or deal with it and take your chances. And Black, Staff Sergeant Wesley Black, he gave his voice, and he talked about he could be dead tomorrow. He could live another 6 months. It really all just depends on how my body responds to the oral chemotherapy and how much more he can squeeze out of the stone. So it seems to me that he has some type of optimism there, but at the end of the day, he doesn't know. He's unsure. Could be 6 months, could be a few years, could be a few days. We don't know. So after his initial service in the military, and that's also the 2 tours, he became a firefighter, and during that time he received a Hero of the Year award by the Chittenden County, twice. The former staff sergeant, who's now retired, is spending his days advocating for veterans, just as I'm doing here. And he's testified about this experience, stating, you're essentially looking at a dead man walking. He's got a 3-year-old son who he may not see at the age of 5, so then he won't be able to see him to 10. Not going to be able to see him graduate, not see him become a man. Furthermore, he wants everyone to know that this is going to be a nationwide health crisis for all of our veterans. And this is why I am sharing this video, or this article and this story with you. So think about this 20-year war that we've had going on overseas between Iraq and Afghanistan. The countless numbers of servicemen and women had to experience and be exposed to these burn pits and burning the shitters, as we like to call it, where there's a possibility that they too could be diagnosed with cancer. And this is something that isn't talked about much. It took one oncologist to go outside of the normal scope to just simply look into the idea that this could be cancer. And with that being said, I would advocate, and I would challenge each and every individual, if you served overseas and you had to experience these burn pits or anything like that nature, that you go get checked. Go get checked out, because that could be you. Could be you. And it would suck to get the news that it's stage 4 by the time you first know about it. If you're not liking the answer that the initial doctor gives you, find a different one. Request a different one. Because at the end of the day, every serviceman and woman who have fought for our country, volunteered to give up their sacrifices, they deserve excellent health care. But that's just my take. Tell me what you guys think. Please leave some comments. If you have other stories like that, please send them to me. It would be greatly appreciated because I want to continue this dialogue, this discussion, that this could become the next big health crisis. Please, again, like, share, subscribe, click that notification bell if you like these videos. There'll be plenty more to come. Again, this is All in a Day's Work. Officially signing off on our Mental Health Monday. Take care, everybody. Peace.